Yo, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Head Trip. It's been a minute. I will admit, it's been a minute. It's been 2 weeks. I dropped the ball a little bit. Last couple of weeks have been significantly busy. Got a lot going on around the household and in life, but with my girlfriend's birthday and all, doing all that, hanging out, trying to spend some family time. But that being said, we are back and we have quite a bit to talk about. I know that we've missed a lot of stuff over the last couple of weeks, but I've bookmarked a lot of stuff that I want to talk about over the last couple of days, really. And I'm not going to bother with things over like a week and a half, a week ago. We're just going to get into a little bit more what's current. We're going to talk about what I've been watching lately. Definitely have had the opportunity to watch quite a few things. And we're going to, what else are we going to? We're going to go over a little bit of news. We're going to watch a couple trailers, which I thought would be cool for some stuff that's recently come out. And we're just having a good old time. Hope you guys are having a great August. We're getting so close to September. I know a lot of kids are going back to school, so that's an exciting thing. Maybe for only for some of us. I guess if it's homeschooled, it's not so much of an exciting situation. But I will say that we have the kids going back to school, and so my schedule opens up. Gotta love it. But that's coming in about a week or so. That doesn't even matter to what we're talking about. So welcome back. How's your August going? What do you guys got coming up in September? What are you looking forward to in September? We'll talk about it. Let's see. Real quick, why don't we just jump into some of what I've been watching? I figured this will be the best opportunity to hop into this. So first things first, I had the opportunity to finish The Bear season 4, and my God, man, I know that, like I think I said it before in the past episode, people kind of were a little bit dour on the previous two seasons, season 2, season 3. They felt like it was a step back in a way, but season 4, I feel like really kind of it pulled itself together. It came back, man. We had really, really strong performances from nearly everybody involved. I cannot be happier with the way this season going. It took an obvious dip in, or I say a pivot, so to say, in kind of where the show was going. And it's starting to feel like season 5 might be the last season. This is gonna be full of spoilers, so we're gonna kind of get into it so we can kind of discuss it a little bit better. But Jeremy Allen White, what he's doing here is fantastic. One thing I'm kind of bothered by, though, is that we're not getting as much of the season 1. You know what made me so pumped about season 1, and I think about a bit in season 2 too, is when things were kind of popping off and that stress level was going, and you start hearing that thinking, and it's just about to be like a chaotic moment and a whole bunch of stuff going on. But we don't really get that. This really just kind of sets us up for just storyline after storyline after storyline, and it just kind of keeps it going more in that dramatic effect. Like, I know that people are like, this isn't a comedy, even though it starts winning all these comedy awards. But this season in particular has dove way back into this being a drama. We end this season, again, spoiler warning. We end this season with basically, and it's hinted out a little bit earlier in the season, but Carmi's going to leave the Bear. He's decided that, to the suggestion, the gentle nudge of his sister, that maybe he's just not in love with being a cook anymore, or being a chef. And I think it kind of dials back to his life and growing up and his relationship with his brother, and also like being interested in this lifestyle and this love for food. But it's also what him and his brother bonded over. And I think that after his brother passed, he chased it. He chased the dream, in a way, in a memory of his brother. And it kind of something that kind of kept him tied to his brother. But I think he realized that after all this time, that's exactly what he was doing. He was chasing, the idea of what him and his brother could have had. And he's just over time lost his love for this. And it's just not what he's passionate about anymore, even though he's fantastic and he's still one of the best to do it in the show. And we get hinted this by, Ayo Badiri's character, kind of mentions it. And what's his name from Guardians of the Galaxy? It's gonna drive me crazy. He's a guest on this show. It's so good, but I cannot think of his name. So let me. What is his? The Bear. I don't know why all of a sudden for some reason I can't think of this guy's name, and it's gonna drive me absolutely insane until I can remember it. Oh, why do I get in these stumps? Why do I get in these stumps of not remembering people's names? It is. It is. It is. It is. It is. Oh man! Also, John Bernthal. Everything just. I know that he's like primarily in the first part of this show, but still, he's so damn good. There we go. I'm gonna pull it up right now. With a big old giant Will Poulter. Oh my god, why did it take me so long to remember Will Poulter? Jesus Christ, he's so good in this, and we get hints from him about where he learned a bunch of different things, significant things in his trade. But man, this season was really, really good. I'm excited to see kind of where we go in the fifth season. You know, we got this new partnership between Cuz and Sydney, and who is Cuz, Sydney, and the other partner. Or whatever. But man, I'm excited for this. I'm excited for season 5. A lot of emotion, a good amount of comedy. Props to our pastry chef boy, our homie, getting that award. I think that sets him up for another, pretty exciting. We'll kind of see where his storyline goes for Marcus. I think he's a fan fave, but yeah, man, really, really like the show. I really like season 4. I think it's a move in the right direction, and I can't wait to see additionally where that goes. I've also watched Eyes of Wakanda, another great piece of art coming out of the MCU, coming out of the Disney Plus realm, and it was great. I really liked it. These super short stories about telling the different history of different people within Wakanda and different leaders. And the impact that they've had over time, and it touches on a few different historical facts and blends them in together. 4 episodes, I think they're like less than 30 minutes long each, like probably like 25 minutes long. But I really, really, really loved this pivot and this kind of move to show some of the history of Wakanda, because we hear about a lot of stuff in the movies, and we hear some things, spoken about the history and all of that. But it's really nice to kind of see a little bit more of that fleshed out with some of these different characters. And I don't know a lot of the names of the characters off the top of my head, but they're really, really good. What else? What else did I watch? Went to the movies and caught Together, the Dave Franco, Alison Brie horror movie. And wow, if this is not on your guys' radar, I don't know what you guys are doing. I mean, I know that a lot of people are hyped right now because of Weapons. And I feel like that kind of took the glory a little bit of what's going on with this movie. But man, this was, first of all, it was a little bit different than what I expected. I didn't expect some of this sci-fi horror, like it kind of comes from something else. I thought it was going to be sort of like based on their relationship by chance, nature has decided. But it steps away from that, and it introduces a few kind of localities in terms of the horror aspect, in terms of where it came from and why they are the way they are. But super strong performances. Dave Franco, Alison Brie, both just top notch. The way they went in on these roles, I couldn't have asked for anything better. Some of the most gruesome, intense things that they have to do to kind of continue. I mean, you could just kind of see in the picture exactly where this goes. But I really, really love the creative direction. We saw it in theaters about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago. I can't remember off the top of my head. But we are just, Paige and I were ecstatic, and I love the idea of these two characters kind of honing into this horror element, and I would absolutely love more of this. I'm not saying necessarily a sequel, but I would love to. I would love to see Dave Franco and Alison Brie take in a little bit more of horror. I think it's exciting. I think they got. I think they've got the vibe for it. Obviously, I'm loving Dave Franco as a horror director anyway. What's the other movie that they did? The Rental or something like that? which is also a really, really good movie. I enjoyed that as well, but loved it. Loved some guest appearances from Damon Harriman. Some of you might remember him from House of Wax, and what else was he in? He was in a Better Man that came out recently. I think he was he Charles Manson? I can't remember if he was, but I have a feeling that he was the one that played Charles Manson in both. Oh, he's the voice of Cabal. Yeah, okay, he was Charles Manson in Mindhunter, and he was Charles Manson in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That kind of that weird little situation that kind of happened, how he ended up playing both roles, and he kills them. He plays them both so well. But love this movie. If you haven't seen it, it definitely will have you kind of flinching a little bit and squealing, and I love directed by Michael Shanks, by the way. I'm not too familiar with him. He did Rebooted, Time Trap, The Wizard of Oz. I don't know if that's kind of a Australian kind of project. But I really like this movie. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you check it out together. I'm trying to think of what else I can say. I like the idea that it's not a huge location. Primarily takes place in their primary Airbnb, or not the Airbnb, their new where they moved. Yeah, can't say enough about it. Check it out if you guys haven't seen it. That's Together. That's in theaters. Another thing I got to check out, the new release, a newer release on HBO Max, on HBO, was Freaky Tales, another new Pedro Pascal, Ben Mendelsohn, Dominic Thorne movie. And I should say I really like this movie. I like this movie. It was fun. It kind of tells a story in a few different chapters, which is fine, but really strong performances by Pedro Pascal. Of course, I mean, you can always rely on Pascal for good performance. Ben Mendelsohn, typically unsung, he's one of those actors, and we've talked about this before in other projects. He's one of those guys that, when he shows up in a movie, it is just going to be dope. I mean, he's just such a strong performer, whether it's in Ready Player One, his small role in Dark Knight Rises, Rogue One, a solo story, his role in Andor. I mean, not so much Secret Invasion, even though he killed the role as Talos. And we love him in Talos. We love him as Talos. The Outsider. I mean, The King. Such a strong actor. I am all about him showing up in any and every role. Jay Ellis, he plays the role of some could argue probably the main character, so to speak, that a lot of this is kind of built around. Jay Ellis, he plays Sleepy Floyd. Ji Young-woo, she plays Tina. Jack Champion, he's in here as Lucid. A lot of really, really good actors. And if you haven't seen it, it's essentially basically it's in this version of this world where something otherworldly, kind of not like an ooze, not like a light, but just kind of something in the form of a force takes place in the city of Oakland that kind of interconnects these four different characters. And so we're seeing four different stories. One predominantly between Sleepy Joe, I think the name was Sleepy Joe, Sleepy Floyd's character, Pedro Pascal's character, Dominic Thorne's character, and then Jack Champion's and Ji Young-yo's character. Those are the four primary stories, and a lot of it has to do with kicking the shit out of Nazis and all these otherworldly badass things and putting themselves in situations. So if you haven't checked this out yet, it's on Max. It's up. Highly suggest you do so. Definitely worth it. Another movie I got to stop and check out in theaters was Freakier Friday. This is the new movie with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan, the sequel to Freaky Friday. And man, this is great. I was surprised how much they nailed the landing on coming back to the sequel. I was a little unsure because Freaky Friday I had always kind of felt like was a good movie. It was fine, but it's kind of like one of those ones where I kept on checking my phone, I zoned out, I zoned back in, and I never went back to seriously watch all the way through. I mean, I've seen it all the way through, but like I said, not paying attention. But this movie, this does a really good job of telling a different version of it and kind of updating it. And all these actresses do such a good job. I mean, obviously Lindsay Lohan, we welcome her back with open arms. Everything that she's been through in her life, I really love seeing her come back and really just continue making a name for herself and just show why we all loved her in the first place. Everything from early on, from Parent Trap up to Freaky Friday, and then just to make it, and then coming out with Freakier Friday with Jamie Lee Curtis, it's just great. We got a couple additions in Sophia Hammonds, who does a really good job as being playing Lily Reyes, who's the daughter of Manny Jacinto's, Eric Reyes. Another great addition. I love Manny Jacinto, whether it's from The Good Place or it's from what was the Star Wars one? It was the every time I need to remember something, I can't remember it, and that's just the way that my life goes, baby. I forgot he's in Top Gun Maverick as well, but that's not what we're thinking of. We're thinking of The Acolyte. The Acolyte. One of the hidden gems from this movie. Such a strong performance, and in this just kind of goes to show how strong a performance. I really want him in a lot more projects. Who else do we get? We get Harper Coleman, played by Julia Butters. She's the daughter of Lindsay Lohan's Anna Coleman, Jamie Lee Curtis's Tessa Coleman's granddaughter. And she, between Lily and Harper, Julia and Sophia, they do a really good job of basically taking in over the co-leads and playing, Lindsay and Jamie in these younger bodies and what they do. And additionally, Lindsay and Jamie Lee Curtis, they go for it as like these younger girls, these teenagers in the bodies of these adult women and what you would do. And they do a lot of what we assume we would do, which is like just taking advantage of being an adult and going doing the things you want and just not letting anybody tell you no and just having a happy life. And I think they hit the nail just perfectly. We get some the return of Chad Michael Murray's Jake, which is he does a really good job of just kind of like pivoting into this kind of like this simp role a little bit. Obviously we all love him. He goes on the screen and it's just Chad Michael Murray again. You can almost borderline feel the girls wooing over him. Mark Harmon coming back as Ryan, the husband of Tess Coleman. And just a lot of good performances, a lot of good additions to this. I really like the addition. I like the new characters. I really enjoyed it. Just kind of makes you wonder if they're going to do like a Freakiest Friday, maybe just kind of like really nail down a trio of movies, and we'll be happy that way. And I would be all for it the way that this movie left off. Which until what led me to the next movie, Freaky Friday. I had to give Freaky Friday a run through back again. Just coming off of Freakier Friday and how impressed I was. I really just kind of needed to kind of jump back in this and familiarize myself. And I'm glad that I did, because there's a lot of plot points that I had forgotten overall that lend itself to this movie. And if you I really suggest, if you haven't seen it, watch Freaky Friday again, because there's such a bunch of small little nuances and a bunch of like almost inside jokes and things like that kind of happen that do play into the second movie. They're really good about touching back onto that. And they do such a good job of just kind of intermingling both movies. I completely forgot that Lindsay Lohan's character had a younger brother, even though it's a big point of knowledge in the first movie, because he kind of comes back in the second movie, but sort of like not in a way that they kind of announce it. It's almost like you just kind of need to know, and it completely was over the top of my head. And there's a few different things, obviously the songs and all that kind of they come back, and a few other things, but I highly suggest watching Freakier Friday again. Freaky Friday, if you haven't watched watch Freakier Friday if you haven't watched Freaky Friday, but run it back because you kind of need to. And the last thing I kind of want to touch on, which I'm excited to be the last thing to talk about in terms of what I've been watching, is Unreal. So this is a new documentary Netflix series on Netflix. I think it's 5 episodes. And you can, in a way, say that's hosted by Triple H, sort of. He's kind of like the predominant one kind of giving the dialogue. But we get a lot of interview and a lot of discussion from everyone from Cody Rhodes to CM Punk to Charlotte Flair, and a lot of different wrestlers. And man, if you're a fan of the WWE, I grew up watching WCW and WWF in the Attitude Era, and I got put on by my uncle when I was younger, and I just fell in love. And I would say from like first or second grade, seriously, until probably I don't even know, going into eighth grade or something like that. I was a really, really big fan of the WWF at the time, and WCW, which WWF eventually became WWE because World Wildlife Fund. They wouldn't let them copyright the name, so they had to pivot and change it. For those of you who don't know, but man, this is really good. This really, if you're curious about the way that the WWE, the WCW, the way that they operate and all the behind the scenes stuff. And it's, if you're curious about that, this is a really good job of shedding some light in terms of like how these stories are developed and who's put on and who's going, and a lot of it is leading to WrestleMania, the most recent WrestleMania, which is exciting because you have all these different wrestlers and all these different people hyped, and you see the highs and the lows of some of these wrestlers and what they go through injury, or what they go through just not being the one that's put up or the one that comes out on top, and how that affects them, and they just kind of keep growing and keep grinding into the next one. And man, it really it made me a little bit emotional. And my girlfriend Paige, we watched this together and we were just hooked on it. We just front to back, we could not wait to finish it. But it's not, I don't want to say it that way, because we don't want to finish it, because we want it to keep going. Like if this is 10 episodes, I'd probably still be in the living room right now watching it happily. But it's only 5 episodes, and I hope they come out with a season 2, maybe leading to something else, and maybe some other wrestlers we get to talk to and get their backgrounds. But I really, really like this. If you haven't checked it out, it's unreal. It's on Netflix. It's 5 episodes and really good insight into the background of wrestling or the WWE, and how these shows are developed and where they go. It's not like a history lesson, kind of like how the McMahon documentary that came out not that long ago, and that really goes deep dives into the history of the WWE. So you can watch that too. That's actually probably accompanies it pretty well. You can kind of get a good history of it and kind of get where almost the company left off when McMahon left. And so this is actually a good transition into the new WWE and what they're trying to do with it and what they've been doing, but kind of how they go about it all. Everything from the I don't know if it's the Gorilla Room or something like that, where like it's like the central hub of where everything kind of goes down right outside of like the entrance ring and all that. But check it out. That is unreal. That's on Netflix. Super exciting. Love that. If you haven't checked it out, I highly suggest that you do so. What else? Some trailers came out today, and I want to check those out. But before we do that, I thought it'd be fun to talk on a couple of things, a couple of updates and things coming out that have been across the news a little bit lately. And why don't we start with talking about this? And I think it'll just be easier if I just share this screen. Boom. And we're just going to go like this. So, the Duffer Brothers. We are getting awfully close to the final season of Stranger Things. They premiere at the end of this year. I think it's November and December. Don't mind me. And that'll do it for the Duffer Brothers. That'll do it. Once this final season of Stranger Things comes out, that'll do it. The Duffer Brothers they're officially leaving Netflix to make other projects, and they've signed a deal with Paramount. Now, this is coming from Matt Bellany, which he's typically very, very good about, having the inside track on different things. So they're signing a deal with Paramount. They're moving away from Netflix. And I guess getting the opportunity to put movies in theaters is what sold the Duffer Brothers to going to Paramount and moving away from Netflix. Now, is Netflix making movies in theaters? They're just starting to kind of pivot into that world, but it's not guaranteed. But with Paramount, it's nearly all but guaranteed. I think this is a fantastic move for the Duffer Brothers, mainly because they have an eye. They have an eye for the nostalgic. They have an eye for the eerie, and kind of in this world of Stranger Things, much like Super 8 and projects and movies like that. I think a lot of people will agree that this is kind of a world we enjoy living in. This is kind of like a piece of art and a piece of TV and film that we do genuinely enjoy living in. I like projects that came out of these filmmakers, like Wayward Pines. The first season, I didn't catch the second season, but I really liked Wayward Pines. It was another story about the otherworldly and not all as it seems and all that. Um, but I'd be really excited to see what the Duffer Brothers do outside of this. I think they are only listed as the only upcoming project so far is Stranger Things, so there's still not much to be seen regarding that. Like this is like the most previous, obviously coming up. As writers, they only have Stranger Things coming up. They don't have anything in the box. But that being said, Paramount isn't just going to sign them to a deal just because they've done Stranger Things. Then they don't necessarily get away with these ads. They don't necessarily want to sign them just on their name alone. They're not necessarily like Scorsese or Nolan, how they'll sign him to a deal without having any pitches or anything, any treatments ready. So that means the Duffer Brothers probably have, a couple different project ideas down, and we'll see because I'm sure some of these will go to theaters. They're going to need. I mean, Paramount just absorbed. They just merged and I guess purchased, whatever the word you want to use. Skydance. That just kind of happened. So I think with the combination of Paramount and Skydance and the Duffer Brothers and what they bring to the table, I think this can make for a really exciting couple of years coming up. 4 or 5. And we don't know how long these deals are. Usually they're like 5 to 10 years because it takes a few years to get these projects off the board. And then some of these TV projects to fruition. So who knows what kind of deal they got together? I don't know. Maybe I don't think there's anything out specifically regarding this. But I think it's exciting. I think it's good. I think it's only going to lead to some more exciting storytelling coming out of the Duffer Brothers, and I'm excited for it. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys are excited for the Duffer Brothers. Obviously, however you feel about Stranger Things, I think we can all agree that this is a series that was just put on. It just put Netflix storytelling and what they were capable of on the map. Obviously Netflix had their stuff going on, but this was big. This is when it came out. This is the biggest thing that Netflix had ever done, and probably still kind of is. So yeah, we'll see we'll see what this means to Paramount. We'll see what this means to Netflix because this is Stranger Things alone is going to leave a huge hole in the stylized storytelling of Netflix. And so we'll kind of see what they do from there. But either way, I'm excited for it. So let me know what you guys think. Put it in the comments, and we'll talk more about that. And let's see. So what else? What else is in the news? This is an interesting, fun thing I want to talk about. So if you're like me and you loved Sinners, and I just wanted to pop this up real quick because a clip of Miles Canton performing in NYC, and it's just exciting because you forget how good, you forget just how good he was in Sinners, and the fact that he was a new actor at the time, a fresh face, and the time that he took to learn how to play guitar and really dial in, his singing, his vocals and his guitar playing for it. He that was him performing, throughout the movie. And this clip came out this was just a couple days ago, only on Thursday. This is him performing in NYC. What's that? Woo! Let's go, dude. Ah, man. Dude. how good is he? How good is he? I am so impressed by this gentleman, by this young man, just coming out of nowhere and absolutely crushing his role in Sinners. But not just crushing his role in Sinners, but just becoming such a good performer coming out of Sinners. Like, that's crazy. You don't see that very often where someone takes on a new skill. I mean, actors all the time. They're always it is a nice picture. Actors all the time. They're learning new skills, whether it's playing guitar and singing, or driving, or Tom Cruise doing all this badass stuff he does, or Chris Hemsworth, doing the things he's learned. Brad Pitt for F1, becoming learning how to drive and not to drive, but drive F1 in a way, and so Miles Canton, studying and becoming this strong vocalist and guitar player for the sake of this role, and then moving it into live performances outside of the movie, and becoming a strong performer, musician in its own. I love to see that. I think that's just the coolest fucking thing that you can do as an entertainer, as an artist. Take those abilities that you learned that you've gained over being an actor, and move that into something different, and something that kind of gives you that thrill, that live performance that he probably felt a little bit throughout Sinners. So love that. Absolutely love that. I thought that was cool, and I can't wait to see what else he does. I think he's an exciting, I think he's a super exciting new face, and I'm excited to see kind of where he goes in his career. I'm excited to see kind of how Ryan Coogler maybe might use him in the future, if not anybody else. But yeah, we'll see. Next thing to talk about, and I think this will be pretty exciting. Peacemaker season 2. We are gearing closer and closer to Peacemaker season 2, and now we are seeing that at the time, as of this moment, Peacemaker season 2 has a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, out of 16 reviews. So take that for what you will. Still a little early on, but I think we can all agree 100% out of 16 reviews is still wildly impressive. Season 2 premieres August 21st, so this coming Thursday. So we have a little bit of time left. But if you haven't watched the trailer, I'm psyched for this. So I don't know if I'm assuming by this point everybody's caught season 1, which is phenomenal. I mean, they have a lot of. I'm trying to look for what Rotten Tomatoes rated the first season. There's a lot for them to kind of sort of get around and make canon what came out of season 1, but there's also a lot to kind of that they kind of have to fix going into season 1, going into season 2. Now that we know that Peacemaker, the character in season 2, takes place in the DCU, in James Gunn DCU. By the way, season 1 had 93% Rotten Tomatoes with 90 reviews. So that's pretty fucking cool. And so season 2 already having 100%, that makes me just so overly confident in this. I cannot wait. Yeah, so season 2 has a 100%. And we had like the Justice League come in at the end of season 1, and just a few different things that they're gonna have to pivot. And James Gunn has said that basically season 2 takes season 2 as the take season 2 as like the culmination of how this character and how this portion of the world exists within the greater DCU. So basically, if you see it, it's canon. If it's talked about, it's canon. And if it doesn't get touched on, just assume for the time being that until it does, that it's not necessarily canon to the greater DCU. But they're doing press, and John Cena's out there doing press. James Gunn, I think, is doing a bit of press out there for season 2. I know he's exhausted after coming off of Superman press tour, but which obviously John Cena's Peacemaker was also in. A different Peacemaker. Don't get it twisted. From the trailers, we know that we're getting 2 Peacemakers, 2 John Cenas, and how those are going to overlap with this one going to want to spend some time in this other universe because this one just doesn't, I guess, appreciate him enough. But I cannot wait. I'm really excited too to see what this new intro that this new choreographed intro that they're going to be doing. We know. Remember, I don't know if you the first season had dun, 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 dun. I can't remember how the song goes, but I remember the dance of it is so good and it's so creative. And we're gonna have some new people like Frank Grillo's going to be in season 2, along with a lot of other people. But he's going to be part of this dance number 2. And he was talking about how awkward he felt. It took a while for him to get into it, but he said once he started getting into it, he started feeling like he was like the number one. He was like the best dancer. I think that's hilarious. I have a hard time with Frank Grillo, if I'm being completely honest, because I cannot tell. I'm the kind of person who I love good actors, obviously, but I'm okay with like okay actors. If you're like a decent actor, that's fine. If you're a good person, if you're a solid person, I can get around like whatever okay acting. If you're a great actor and you're a great person, I love that. Frank Grillo, I cannot tell. I can't tell if he even enjoys being an actor. I can't tell if he enjoys being around people. I can't tell if he's a nice guy or not. I have a hard time with it. I want to believe, because he makes his way into a lot of projects, and James Gunn has a notorious no assholes rule. So I don't know. I just get the weirdest. I just get the weirdest vibe from him. I don't know. And maybe I'm completely off on that. And feel free to correct me in the comments. Feel free to link me for examples of why he's not a D-bag. I'm not saying he is. I'm saying I don't know. I can't tell. I just I'm not. He's not the worst actor out there. He's not the best actor out there. He's a good actor. He's a good character actor. He definitely fits within a specific type of role. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I have no idea. But I want to know. I want to be in the know-how. So feel free to enlighten me. But Peacemaker season 2, that's coming out next Thursday. I cannot wait. Let me know if you're as excited as I am. And give me your thoughts. Another thing I wanted to talk about real quick before we dive into some trailers. So Deadline. Here we go. Deadline put out an article talking about Quentin Tarantino and why he pulled the rug on the movie critic as his final film. So, as some of you may know, Quentin Tarantino is notorious as a filmmaker himself, but recently in the last few years, his name gets brought up a lot because this dialogue about him not wanting to overstay his welcome as a filmmaker, as a director, and he doesn't want to be one of these guys that's into his 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I have no idea how he might even be in his 60s. But he doesn't want to be one of those guys that's in his 70s, late 60s, 70s. And he's an older man. Your Scorsese, your Clint Eastwood, still putting out movies. He's kind of put in this rule of 10 films. He doesn't want to go past that, and at the behest and the frustration to I think a lot of fans who are big Quentin Tarantino fans, regardless of his need to use specific words fairly often. But that being said, we are still waiting to find out what specifically is his final film. We know that David Fincher is doing basically this kind of stories, life of Cliff Booth movie starring Brad Pitt, with his character from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And David Fincher is going to be doing that. So we still don't technically know what Tarantino's final film is going to be. So it was going to be The Movie Critic, which is apparently was going to be starring Brad. The rumor was it's starring Brad Pitt. I think it was going to be in the world of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm not sure if that was officially confirmed. I think that was sort of the rumor that was going around, but I don't entirely know. But so speaking of Deadline, Quentin Tarantino is talking about why that specific movie that ended up getting canned. Apparently it was written out and it seemed like it was getting ready to be filmed, but it was shelved. So Quentin Tarantino talking about the movie, he says that they were very happy with what they wrote as an 8-part series. So let's just kind of go down. So after Deadline reported last year that Quentin Tarantino dropped The Movie Critic as his 10th and final film, he provides some insight. The two-time Oscar winner recently explained, although he was very happy with what he wrote originally as an 8-part series, and then translated into a feature-length script. It wasn't really, but wasn't really excited when it came time for from pre-production. So again, this was finished, and they were getting ready to actually put this into production. But then he fell out of love with it. He said, "So no one's waiting for this thing per se. I mean, I can do it whenever I want. I mean, it's already written. So okay, let me just not start it right now." He explained his thought process to the Church of Tarantino podcast. I had no idea. So let me try writing it as a movie and let me see if it's better that way. And I was like, oh, okay, no, I think this is going to be the movie. And then it wasn't. I pulled the plug on it, and the reason I pulled the plug, it's a little crazy. He says, although Tarantino said he really liked the movie Critic, he noted, but there was a challenge that I gave myself when I did it. Can I take the most boring profession in the world and make it an interesting movie? Which I would disagree. That's the most boring profession in the world. Getting the opportunity to talk about movies, that sounds fantastic. Every Tarantino title promises so much, except the movie critic, he explained, which is a little up his own ass of a statement, but who wants to see a TV show about a fucking effing movie critic? Who wants to see a movie called The Movie Critic? If I can actually make a movie or a TV show about somebody who watches movies instead, that is an accomplishment. It's a spiritual sequel of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, insofar as they take place in the same universe and they take place in the same town. But there were no crossover characters. Cliff Booth was never in The Movie Critic, so I guess those rumors were wrong. I think there was some rumor that he was going to be a movie critic or pivot into a role as a movie critic or something. That's all a bunch of bullshit. That never was the case ever. He added, I was so excited about the writing, but I wasn't really that excited about dramatizing what I wrote once we were in pre-production. So it kind of sounds like he loves the story he wrote. He likes the idea, but just not in a way that's all going in on a feature film. So after The Movie Critic was teased as his final film in 2003 with Brad Pitt attached star, deadline was reported last April with the auteur simply had a change of heart and opted not to move forward with the project. Sources close to the project director said he was going back to the drawing board to figure out what he will do for his final movie. He said the movie was set in 1977 California, based on a guy who really lived but was never really famous, and he used to write movie reviews for a porno rep. I forgot about that detail. Although the spiritual sequel, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, isn't in the cards for Tarantino's final outing, Pitt is reprising his role as stuntman Cliff Booth for the upcoming Netflix offshoot movie, The Adventures of Cliff Booth. I have to say Booth. Directed by David Fincher, which we were just talking about. I forgot that it was a Netflix movie. I think that's interesting. But whatever. So take this for what you will. No movie critic. Maybe we'll get this in the form of a book. I know that he's kind of gotten into like writing, book releases and stuff like that for some of his films and some of the stuff that he doesn't direct. And maybe this will make its way into maybe he'll have somebody else kind of write this as a series. Maybe it will work as a series and he'll have somebody else take it over. Or maybe he'll abandon this idea of 10 films, and once his 10th film comes out, he'll get something up his ass and decide he wants to do this. I don't know. I'm down for it. I don't believe in this whole, I only want to make so many films, or I don't want to be the guy who's too old making films, or this and that. I think that if you're capable and you have a story to tell and it's exciting, and if you're an auteur director that, people tend to back and they get excited to see, or excited to see your movies, whether it's Pulp Fiction or it's Django Unchained, which I don't know if you guys have seen that interview. That interview that's circulating around that roundtable with Will Smith talking about why he couldn't get behind. He was originally going to be Django and Django Unchained, but he couldn't get behind the fact that the story was around vengeance and not a love story, and he couldn't get behind that. We're just kind of like, okay, well, you're an actor and your character believes in that, so whatever. It seemed like kind of a cop out. It seems like he's one of those guys who wants to make his version of a movie and not like a director's vision. But whatever. And so, which kind of leads me to something else I was going to talk about, but I'm not going to talk about it too much. Which was, I think I actually have it pulled up. Where is it? We'll talk. Actually, I'll bring it up right here. while we're at least on the subject, because Alan Tudyk was talking about how he got dropped from the publicity tour for iRobot. A lot of you might not realize that he was in. I don't know if I left off what we were talking about the movie critic, but excited for the David Fincher Cliff Booth movie. Excited for what Tarantino does. I hope he keeps on making movies after that, and hopefully they do something with the movie critic, whether that's the book or it's a TV, or he hires another director to do it. We'll see. But Alan Tudyk was talking about iRobot and the publicity, and a lot of people might not realize that Alan Tudyk was the voice and the CGI and the mannerisms for the character Sunny in iRobot, but he wasn't part of any of the test screening. And according to him, he says he was dropped from the iRobot publicity after his motion capture tested higher than Will Smith at test screens. And so this came from Variety. And his quote was essentially, a lot of people did not know I did Sunny the Robot in iRobot. I actually did not know that either. That completely went over my head. He said, and there's a reason. They were doing test screenings for the movie, and they scored the character in this kind of test screening. I got word back that said, Alan, you are testing higher than Will Smith's character, which basically means people are really loving the performance you're giving as Sunny, and you're in a way outshining Will Smith's character. And then I was gone. I was done. There was no publicity, and my name was not mentioned, and I was shocked. I was like, wait, nobody is going to know I'm in it, which is fair. I mean, he's an actor. He works his. I mean, Alan Tudyk is an actor that works his ass off. He's in a lot of stuff you don't realize. He does a lot of acting work. He does a lot of voiceover work. And he obviously does a lot of motion capture work. He's in Creature Commandos. He plays multiple roles in Creature Commandos, if you don't know that. So nobody's going to know that I'm in it, which is got to be heartbreaking for an actor to put all this work and be kind of dropped off from the publicity stuff. Like, I mean, imagine like Avengers coming out and Mark Ruffalo tested higher than Tony Stark, and so and then they removed him from all the publicity. Like, that would be insane. I put a lot into that performance. I had to move like a robot. At the time, I was very upset, and that's super understandable. But this kind of paints a picture of Will Smith. It's kind of this newer, over the last few years, this new outward look of Will Smith. Whether it's some of the roles that he's taking on or refusal to take on, and he talks about it a little bit. Whether it's the slap heard around the world, whether it's this cop out of why he didn't go for Django, and the idea here, and it's hard to kind of miss it, which is like him being left out of the publicity tour because his performance outshined Will Smith's. If that's true, that sucks. I have always been a big Will Smith fan. I think, whether it's like Pursuit of Happiness, or anything in that realm, I think he's just a fantastic actor. I Am Legend. I mean, all these roles, he's so good. So it's kind of sucks to see him, like, is he secretly kind of like this douche? Like, I don't know. That's kind of like, it bums me out. Like, because like I said, if you're a really good actor and you're a really good person, I love that. But that will never be an excuse for being a really good actor and being a really shitty person. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to be able to get behind that. I'll still see your movies. Obviously, I'm a movie fan. I'm a film and TV fan. Like, I'm going to see movies and stuff. But it sucks. It sucks to the idea of how, who you kind of kept this person in your mind after all these years. So I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, we'll see. Well, we'll see where his career goes after that. It's kind of heartbreaking for Alan Tudyk because obviously he's a fantastic actor, and I want to see him praised and I want to see him take on more roles. But who knows? Who knows? Who knows any of that? So I want to watch a trailer because well, it's more of a teaser, I should say. So I don't know if any of you have seen. Lately, there's been this trailer for this, or this talk about this new movie called Good Boy. And basically what it revolves around is this, they've been doing a lot of movies lately or it's called Good Boy. They've been doing movies lately where it's like the perspective of someone specific. They kind of started off with, I guess it started off with like paranormal activity in a way. We're kind of getting like, it's almost like a horror from the viewpoint of a ghost who's taken over a home or an entity or whatever. We saw him there, but we also saw him again in that Elizabeth Olsen movie, and I can't remember the name of it. It was the one that's like it's the movie that like kind of takes place over the span of like a couple hours, and it was right before she got really big, and no, not before Old Boy, before all that, what was it? Silent House. This came out in 2011, and a girl is trapped inside her family's lakeside retreat and becomes unable to contact the outside world as supernatural forces haunt the house with mysterious energy and consequences. And it's filmed in a way that it like takes place over like an hour and a half or 2 hours. In a way, they kind of get around it because go from daytime to nighttime. But whatever, that doesn't really matter. So then it started with this, and then we got movies like what came out recently, the in a Violent Nature, which told the story of behind, like, basically from the point of view of a killer, of the story killer, almost like your Jason or Michael Myers, but from their perspective. Now we have Good Boy, and so the premise behind Good Boy is that the movie is basically from a dog's perspective of a family being haunted. Synopsis: a loyal, I'll show this to you, just kind of all right. A loyal dog moves to a rural family home with his owner Todd, only to discover supernatural forces lurking in the shadows. As dark enemies threaten his human companion, the brave pup must fight to protect the one he loves most. So basically, it's a horror movie of a haunted, an entity of a haunted home or something like that, possessed home or whatever you want to call it. But told from the perspective of a dog, which is kind of cool. And I thought this was exciting. And they put out a little teaser. I thought it'd be good to watch. I haven't watched this yet, so we're gonna watch it all together. But I thought it'd be fun to watch. So let's check this out. This is Good Boy, the trailer for Good Boy, and let's see.
An alerted to the presence of predators. Mankind has left the
Oh, okay. So official trailer is coming next week. Oh, so this is just a teaser. Okay, so not much, unfortunately. I thought this was the trailer for some reason. It's just a teaser, but we get a trailer next week. Not much to show. It's giving kind of like Poltergeist vibes so far, and maybe that's what it'll. I'm hoping, kind of, now that I think about it, I'm kind of hoping that's what it will kind of lead into, is maybe like a Poltergeist vibe where it's like the house is really possessed, and it's not so much like small little instances or like a person in the corner, but maybe it'll be more of like this house kind of sucking the life out of you or something like that. I don't know. Again, there's our little guy. I don't think we have a name for him yet, except for Loyal. Oh, we might have a name for him. I think the dog's name is Max. Yeah, this is his name, Max. This comes from director Ben Leonberg. If you're unfamiliar with him, then you're not alone, because so am I. Apparently, he did a lot of shorts. Bare Thoughts. Let's share this, actually. Bare Thoughts, Deadhead, The Fisherman's Wife, Bears Discover Fire. Yeah, I don't know. He's more of a shorts director, which isn't a bad thing. There's a lot of shorts out there that are fantastic, that are better than a lot of feature films. So yeah, we'll see what this looks like. I'm excited for it because I'm all for these new movies that are kind of telling these stories from a different perspective. I think that's fun. I think that's an exciting way to do it. Now, is it going to become like too much, or like too many people going to be doing this? I don't know. I don't want like all of a sudden it's a horror movie told from the perspective of a goldfish. It's just like that, which actually could be a pretty interesting movie. Yeah, we'll see. We will see. It looks good. We got a teaser coming out next week. Not much else that we can really talk about outside of that for that movie. What else? Let's talk about this. let us talk about this. Is Deadpool in Avengers Doomsday? Ryan Reynolds' social media post spurs fan frenzy. Now, this article comes from Deadline again. Now, there's a lot of talk about who is going to be in Doomsday, who's not going to be in Doomsday, and all that. We don't know. We know some of the people. I guess we have some assumptions. I guess it's fair to say. We got the chair scroll that showed all the actors as of now. I think there's supposed to be a part 2. I think was the rumor that there's going to be a part 2 to that. But one person that has not been confirmed is Ryan Reynolds, Doomsday. Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, fan favorite, especially after coming out of Deadpool and Wolverine, which is so good. And actually, I need to run that back. But Deadpool has not been confirmed so far for this for Avengers Doomsday. And he's let out a few tweets lately, and it's kind of getting conversation stirring about whether or not he will be in this movie. So he posted this, the Avengers logo with an anarchy symbol, for whatever that might mean. And I think that might be it. I guess when they say social media posts, this is all they need. But he posted this, so that one could assume that he's going to be sort of the outlier within this. It's kind of annoying me that they did kind of tilt it to kind of match the A little bit more. But that's just me. But I think there's obviously no doubt with his character now having, coming from the Fox universe, and this new movie having spent some time in the TVA, which I think the TVA is supposed to have. I think the thought is the TVA is supposed to have some kind of foot within Doomsday and within Secret Wars. So he's touched on that. He's touched on the multiverse. We've seen him go to we see him go to like multiple, like 10 or so, I don't know, 5 to 10 other universes. We see him go to the void. So there's absolutely no reason that a character that now has had a big chunk of his story revolved around the multiverse wouldn't be in a multiversal story. One of the bigger multiversal Marvel stories. So we'll see. I think there's no doubt that this movie is going to perform. I know there's a lot of conversation because how Thunderbolts performed, which I think they pulled in less than 400 million worldwide, which is unfortunate because, like we talked about, it's such a one of the better Marvel movies to come out in a long time. A lot of good word of mouth, a lot of good marketing, just for it to bring in 382 million worldwide gross. So that's unfortunate. And then and then you have Fantastic Four, which did what, 500? We'll see right now. But also Fantastic Four. I mean, a movie that I think a lot of people thought could be $1 billion movie. I mean, we finally made it to the Fantastic Four joining the MCU. I mean, it's got Vanessa Kirby, Ebon Moss-Backrack, it's got Joseph Quinn, it's got Pedro Pascal, It's hard to see why this movie would fail. And I wouldn't say that it failed, it just underperformed. And it underperformed by only bringing in 442 million worldwide. Fantastic Four, Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four, starring Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Ebon Moss-Backrack, Ralph Ineson, Julia Gardner, with the writer and creator of WandaVision, Matt Shakman, at the helm, brought in 442 million. Off a budget of 200 million. You factor in with marketing, it's probably closer to 325 million as part of their budget. So they made money. It made money. It just didn't make much money. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Deadpool and whether or not he's going to show up in Doomsday. And I think it's pretty obvious. I think the signs are out there. I think where we left off on Deadpool and Wolverine, I wouldn't be surprised if Wolverine makes an appearance. I'm being completely honest. We're getting a lot of set photos. I think there's even there's some Sadie Sink set photos today. We're not going to talk about it today, but I think it just makes sense. Where we left off, Deadpool and Wolverine, the places he's visited, there's a lot of talk that, the Void might actually play a big part in Doomsday. Maybe that'll be Battle World, or maybe it'll be different universe. Who knows? But I think it makes sense. I think it's kind of like obvious that he will. I think it's obvious that he'll take part in that. So we'll see. We'll see. The last thing I wanted to do, real quick, is no, that's not it. That ain't it. That ain't even almost it. So that'll do it. There's only one more thing I want to do, and we've already gone over. So I say, why not? They have released a trailer for Rabbit Trap. Now, this is a new horror movie starring Dev Patel. Now, if you're a Dev Patel fan, then this is probably for you. I really like him. I like him in The Green Knight. I think, what is the monkey or whatever it was, fantastic. Obviously, it is. There's Lion, which is so good of a movie. Lion. I'm trying to think of the one that put him on the map. It's the ticket one. That's like oh, you guys are gonna kill me. But anyway, so the new trailer for this movie called Rabbit Trap, starring Dev Patel. The film follows a couple who move to an isolated cabin, disturb a Tilwith Teg fairy ring, and are visited by a mysterious child who has ill intentions. So this is coming to theater September 12th. I don't know. Let's check this out. Let's check this out. What do they mean by that thing? Because I don't know. All I do know is I have to pee. So in Wales, what's the mythology in Wales? Most used term for Wales mythological creatures corresponding with fairy folk tales of Welsh and Irish folklore. Okay, kind of what I thought it was, but so let's watch this trailer. This is the trailer for Rabbit Trap, starring Dev Patel.
What happens when a sound dies? Where does it go?
When you hear a sound, you become a sound.
With your eyes, you enter the world. With your ears, the world enters you. Gosh, what is this?
Sounds like a spell.
It's sublime. I followed the music.
You could hear that.
Sound travels you. He thinks you're cool.
Thinks I'm cool.
Do you know a lot about local superstition? I know about nature. Are you having nightmares again? Darcy is tainted. There is a veil between this world and fairy.
There are things I
Crap, that is what
haven't told you.
If you let the fairies in, they will guide you.
Wow.
You're not scared of me, are you?
This looks cool. Again, so I'm a huge fan of Dev Patel. I think as an actor, he was like one of my top fan casts as Reed Richards. I think he would have done such a good job as a Reed Richards. I think he's one of those actors where like you could see the emotion in his eyes, like Tom Hardy. Like you give him a role, give him a dramatic role, and only show him from here to here, and he'll give a fucking performance of a lifetime. I don't think you guys have seen Slumdog Millionaire. That's the movie I was thinking of. Oh, it came back to me. Slumdog Millionaire. But The Green Knight, Lion, if you haven't seen it, I mean, he's such a fantastic actor, and I'm always going to be down for anything. This looks exciting. I love the idea of like some like this, like the fact that this is like a story revolving like Welsh fairy tales and stuff like that, because I'm a little bit more unfamiliar with that. But even that being said, I love projects that are kind of steeped in, I don't want to say, oh, Monkey Man was his other movie, and not in reality, obviously, but like this is like real lore, for these people. This is lore that they've lived with hundreds of, or however many years, however hundreds of years. But I'm unfamiliar with it, so it gives me the opportunity to kind of like be a little bit more aware of like what other kind of stuff is out there. We have our own American lore, and we have our Bigfoots, and we have like all that kind of stuff. But seeing some of these other stories that a lot of people have lived with for many, many, many years, and they probably think about fairly often. It probably comes up in conversation a lot. It's exciting to kind of be brought into the loop. So yeah, that's Rabbit Trap. I mean, that looks cool. It looks exciting. I'm excited to check this out. It's September 12th. So wow, super soon. Isn't that crazy? How like some of these Marvel movies come out and like we get them announced like years and years in advance, and they get release dates, and that release date gets pushed out, and that release date gets pushed out. But then movies like kind of fly under the radar. Sometimes we don't even know that they're being made. And then they're like, boom, here it is. Movie comes out in a month. You're like, oh shit, okay. But whatever. I guess it's just, I guess that's just the way it goes sometimes. But okay, man, that'll do it. We had a bit of a long episode. I know normally I try to keep these like within 45 minutes. We went for an hour, so far an hour, a little under an hour and a half, but it was worth it. We got to talk about a lot. We got to watch a good amount of things. And we've had some good discussions. So, that being said, that'll do it for today's episode. I hope you guys have a beautiful weekend. I'm working on continuing to keep up with all the social medias. I've dropped off a little bit on it, just been a little bit busy. But if you have the chance and you don't mind, head to our X, to our TikTok, to our Threads, to our Instagram. It is all at Head Trip HQ. This show obviously being Head Trip Show. We also have a Twitch and a Kick so that we do for live streams. I think Twitch is Head Trip Media for now. That'll get switched over. There's just kind of like some dates that have to be waited for. You have to wait for to do that. But we also stream live on Kick. Follow us on TikTok. That's one of the more predominant ones. And a lot of our news updates come out on X and Instagram. So that'll do it for today. I don't necessarily have any questions I want to lead you guys off with, but I will. So I guess let's put this, why don't we do this? Let's see. Who do you want to show up in Peacemaker Season 2? Oops. So this is our question coming out of this episode, I suppose. The conversation with, Peacemaker's coming out. Season 2 is premiering. We got a week. We're going multiversal. We know we're going to get a lot of characters. Apparently, there's a lot of characters that haven't been shown yet. I think James has said that haven't been shown in this just yet. So my question to you is, of the characters that we might know exist in this world, or maybe we haven't seen just yet, who would you guys like to show up that makes sense in Season 2 of Peacemaker? I'm excited to see where this character leads off into the greater DCU world, but who do you guys want to show up? Is it maybe one of the Green Lanterns that we're possibly going to, that we're going to be seeing in the Lanterns show? Will we see any Supergirl references? I mean, I know the world's our oyster because James Gunn's proven to show that he'll use just about anyone and everyone if it fits the story, whether they're Peacemaker, a character who was basically completely unknown to most comic book readers and comics fans, and now he's damn near a character household name. That's pretty crazy. Same with Vigilante. And even though some will argue, he began making his show as a character on Arrow, poorly handled. But I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see if we get any hints to the greater DCU universe and where we leave off of that. So tell me, throw in the comments, who would you like to see show up in Peacemaker Season 2, whether we've seen them or not, or whether they've been cast or not, or if it's just a character? Let me know. that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on this day. Follow the social medias, subscribe, and turn on your notifications onto YouTube if you haven't done that. If you're checking us out for the first time, or if you're listening to us on Apple Podcast or Spotify Podcast, I really, really, really appreciate that. Do me a favor, please go review the show, subscribe on YouTube if you can, follow social medias if you can, or do one or the other, some of them. I just appreciate any and all love. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Have a beautiful day. Take care of each other. We'll talk soon.